I'm sitting here watching something unfold in real time that no one is fully explaining to you. And I don't mean the explosions. I don't mean the oil prices. I mean the actual strategic chess match happening right now in a 21-mile strip of water that controls the energy supply of the entire planet. Iran just played its trump card, the one it has been holding for 40 years. And what happened next, the retaliation, the destruction, the global scramble, tells you everything about where this war is going. In the next few minutes, I'm going to walk you through exactly what Iran did, why it was a massive miscalculation, and why the fight for the Strait of Hormuz is far from over. Stay with me, because this changes everything. Before we go any further, if you're not subscribed to Daily Brief, now is the time. The Strait of Hormuz situation is moving fast. New strikes are happening daily. You don't want to miss what comes next. Let's rewind to March 11th. Not to the explosions, to the silence before them. For 4 days, there had been a lull. Ships were cautiously moving. The world was watching and hoping that maybe, just maybe, Iran would back down. That silence was not a retreat. It was Iran reloading. On March 11th, 3 merchant ships were struck in and around the Strait of Hormuz in rapid succession. The first was the Thai-registered Mayuri Nari, a bulk carrier that had just departed from a port in the United Arab Emirates. It absorbed the worst of it, hit by what authorities carefully described as 2 projectiles of unknown origin. That diplomatic phrasing is code for Iranian drone strikes. The ship caught fire approximately 11 nautical miles north of Oman. The crew had to abandon the vessel. 20 crew members were evacuated by the Omani Navy. 3 others remained aboard as a skeleton crew waiting for rescue. That was strike 1. Then the attacks kept coming. The Japanese container ship One Majesty was hit next, struck by a projectile approximately 45 kilometers northwest of Ras Al Khaimah in the United Arab Emirates. The damage was less severe, above the waterline, no casualties, but the message was unmistakable. Iran wasn't done. A third vessel, the Star Gwyneth, flying the flag of the Marshall Islands, was struck near the hull while at anchor about 50 kilometers northwest of Dubai. Hull damage in the hold area. Again, no injuries. But this was the 3rd ship in a single operational sequence. Stop. Read that again. 3 ships, 3 different flags, 3 different nationalities, in one coordinated wave. According to Reuters, this brought the total number of attacks in or near the Strait of Hormuz and surrounding regions to at least 14 since the war began. And according to the most recent data from UANI, the United Against Nuclear Iran Monitoring Group, as of March 15th, at least 20 commercial vessels have been struck since hostilities escalated in late February. 20 ships. This is not harassment. This is a strategic campaign. And Iran's spokesperson, Lieutenant Colonel Ibrahim Zolfagari, made the strategy explicit. As reported by PBS NewsHour, he told the world, "We will never allow even a single liter of oil to pass through the Strait of Hormuz for the benefit of the United States, the Zionists, or their partners. Any vessel whose ship or oil cargo belongs to them will be considered a legitimate target." That's a declaration of economic war on the global supply chain. Let's talk about what this strait actually represents, because if you don't understand the geography, you can't understand the stakes. The Strait of Hormuz is approximately 21 miles wide at its narrowest point. But as Forbes reported in the days before the March 11 attacks, tankers don't have 21 miles of freedom. The waterway is divided into shipping lanes, one inbound, one outbound, each roughly 2 miles wide, separated by a 2-mile buffer zone. That reduces the functional corridor to 6 miles. 6 miles that Iran's fast boats can patrol and its drones can strike at will. Through those 6 effective miles flows approximately 20 million barrels of oil per day. According to the Strauss Center for International Security and Law, that represents somewhere between 20% and 30% of total global oil consumption, and 88% of all oil leaving the Persian Gulf moves through this single choke point. There is no equivalent substitute. Saudi Arabia's East-West pipeline and the UAE's Abu Dhabi crude oil pipeline, even running at full capacity, can together divert roughly 3.5 to 5.5 million barrels per day. The strait handles 20 million. As NBC News and Chatham House analyst David Butter noted, even at full capacity, the alternative pipelines cover about 1/4 of normal Hormuz volumes. The arithmetic is brutal. You cannot reroute your way out of this problem. This is Iran's real nuclear option, not a warhead, a choke point. The International Energy Agency called the disruption triggered by Iran's actions the largest supply disruption in history. Oil prices jumped over 13% to their highest since January 2025, briefly surging past $100 a barrel. Iranian spokesman Zolfagari wasn't understating things when he threatened $200 oil. The economic logic is real, and that's precisely why the U.S. response was so fast and so violent. On March 10th, President Trump issued a public warning via Truth Social. The message was direct. If Iran has put out any mines in the Hormuz Strait, and we have no reports of them doing so, we want them removed immediately. If for any reason mines were placed and they are not removed forthwith, the military consequences to Iran will be at a level never seen before. That was the carrot and the stick in one sentence. Iran didn't listen. 13 minutes after Trump posted that warning, 13 minutes, U.S. Central Command had already begun acting. Trump announced it himself. I am pleased to report that within the last few hours, we have hit and completely destroyed 10 inactive mine-laying boats and/or ships, with more to follow. 10 mine-laying vessels gone. Before the public statement had even circulated, the finger was already on the trigger. By the end of the operational sequence, 16 Iranian mine-laying ships had been destroyed. According to a statement confirmed by U.S. Central Command on March 11th, the U.S. didn't stop there. Entire classes of Iranian warships were taken out. The last 4 Shahid Soleimani-class corvettes, an entire category of Iranian warship, were erased. One class of vessel gone forever. And that was still not the full picture. U.S. Central Command confirmed that since the beginning of Operation Epic Fury in late February, American forces have struck over 5,500 targets inside Iran. More than 60 of those targets were Iranian warships. Secretary of Defense Hegseth stated at a Pentagon briefing that Iranian missile volume was down 90% and one-way attack drone capacity was down 95%. He described Iran as exercising sheer desperation in the Strait. Joint Chiefs Chairman General Dan Kane added at a Friday briefing, as reported by USNI News, that Iran's entire ballistic missile production capacity, every company that builds every component, has been functionally defeated, destroyed. He said the U.S. had made it a priority to specifically target Iran's mine-laying capabilities, hitting naval bases, depots, and mine layers simultaneously. This is what overwhelming military superiority looks like when it's applied with intent. But here's the problem, and this is the part everyone skips. You can destroy 16 mine layers, you can sink corvettes, you can bomb production facilities, and the Strait of Hormuz is still not open. As of March 15th, according to UAE shipping data, the historical average of 138 daily transits through the strait had collapsed to just 2 cargo vessels and 1 tanker transiting openly eastbound, 2 and 1 from 138. USNI News reported that Lloyd's List tracked only 10 transits on a single day mid-March, half of them Iranian vessels, largely Ghost Fleet tankers running dark, with their AIS identification systems turned off. These dark transits are split between sanctioned Iranian oil tankers and commercial ships so desperate to move cargo, they're willing to turn off their tracking systems and hope for the best. That's not an open strait. That's a ghost corridor. And the violence is still ongoing. On March 12th, the day after the mine layer destruction, 2 more ships were hit. The Safety Vishnu and the Zephyr Oswar, both flagged under the Marshall Islands, were struck at approximately 1:30 in the morning local time off the coast of Iraq. Both burst into flames. 38 crew members were rescued. 1 person died. Now you're starting to understand Iran's actual strategy. It's not about winning military engagements. Iran knows it can't. It's about creating a state of permanent risk so severe that commercial shipping owners, not governments, not navies, the actual ship owners and their insurance companies, decide the math doesn't work anymore. And the math is already breaking down. As reported by USNI News, Lloyd's List war risk insurance for vessels transiting the strait was removed for March 5th. When war risk insurance disappears, It means the economic cost of operating in that zone has become effectively incalculable. Ship owners can't price the risk, so they don't go. Iran understands insurance markets. That's not an accident. So where does that leave us? Let's talk about the response that's actually being assembled. France has announced what President Emmanuel Macron described as an unprecedented naval deployment. 2 helicopter carriers, 8 frigates, and the Charles de Gaulle aircraft carrier to the Strait of Hormuz, the Red Sea, and the Mediterranean. This fleet is designed to work alongside U.S. and allied vessels to begin physically escorting commercial ships through the strait. According to an analysis published by USNI News, in the short term, it's possible to escort 3 to 4 commercial ships per day using 7 or 8 destroyers providing air cover, though not in the Strait of Hormuz proper, and only if Iranian midget submarine risk is manageable. Doing so sustainably for months requires significantly more resources. The United Kingdom has also entered the picture. Secretary of State for Defense John Healey announced that Britain has autonomous mine hunting systems pre-positioned in the region and has been in active discussions with planners about what additional options could be brought to bear alongside allies. As Healey put it, what Iran is doing is a breach of international law with direct impact on oil prices and the cost of living for everyone. This is becoming a coalition operation, not just a U.S.-Iran bilateral confrontation. And that is exactly the strategic shift that changes Iran's calculus, because Iran's strategy only works if it's isolating one adversary. The moment escort convoys form, the moment allied warships are sailing alongside commercial vessels, the calculus shifts from can Iran's drones hit tankers to can Iran's drones hit tankers while avoiding retaliation from F-22s, F-35s, and French frigates simultaneously? The answer is no. But there's a complication, and it's one the analysts are watching very carefully right now. Iran still has fast attack boats, hundreds of them, small, fast, capable of carrying drones, rockets, or explosive payloads, and some of them don't even need crews. As has been discussed in military analysis circles, Iran has access to remote-controlled vessels packed with explosives, essentially surface drones, conceptually similar to the seaborne drones Ukraine used against Russia's Black Sea Fleet. According to USNI News, despite all the destruction, the IRGCN's fast attack craft have been notably absent from the primary engagement zones. That absence is being watched carefully. It might mean Iran is husbanding them for a different phase of this fight. There's also the Houthi dimension. According to NBC News reporting on conditions in the Red Sea, Iran's Houthi proxies in Yemen are watching this closely. Their leadership has indicated, "Our fingers are on the trigger." If the Houthis re-enter the Red Sea in force, which they have the capability to do, then the global shipping crisis doubles. Not just the Strait of Hormuz, the Bab el-Mandeb too. As David Butter from Chatham House wrote, Saudi pipeline alternatives via the Red Sea are already vulnerable to potential Houthi attacks. If that happens, even the emergency alternatives close. Global energy markets would face a crisis without historical precedent. This is the nightmare scenario. Let me tell you what this means for you right now, wherever you're watching this. You are already paying for this war. Every time you fill up your car, every time you pay your electricity bill, every time you buy something that was shipped, you are absorbing the cost of what's happening in those 6 miles of Iranian contested water. The IEA releasing 400 million barrels from strategic reserves is a temporary patch on a structural rupture. If this stretches into months, and there is every reason to believe it will, because Iran's new supreme leader, Mojtaba Khamenei, has already broken his silence and stated publicly, as reported by NBC News, that the Strait of Hormuz should remain closed, then the repricing of global energy is not a temporary shock. It becomes structural. And structural energy price shifts don't correct in weeks. They take years. You need to understand that. Daily Brief is covering every development in this crisis as it unfolds. Subscribe now and hit the bell because the next 72 hours are going to matter. Let's look at the 2 paths forward, because I don't see a middle road here. I see 2 directions, and both are unstable. The first path, de-escalation through coalition pressure. France and the UK commit their announced naval assets. The US begins formal convoy escorts. The presence of Allied warships makes the economic cost of Iranian attacks on commercial shipping politically untenable because each strike now risks hitting a French or British escorted vessel, triggering Article 5 or equivalent alliance obligations. Iran's new leadership, Mojtaba Khamenei, reportedly lightly wounded at the war's opening, operating from a position of military weakness, concludes that the leverage play has failed. Secret back-channel negotiations begin. A ceasefire framework emerges. Oil eases toward $80. The world exhales. The second path, the spiral. Iran, knowing that time and military capacity are both running out, decides to use the fast attack boats before losing them. A convoy is hit. An Allied warship takes casualties. The alliance response is overwhelming. Iran's Ghost Fleet, still actively loading crude at Karg Island as of March 14th, according to UAE satellite imagery, becomes a new target set. China, Iran's primary oil buyer, now faces economic pressure and a geopolitical choice it has been desperate to avoid. The Houthis enter the Red Sea. The Bab el-Mandeb closes. Two choke points. Simultaneously, global supply chain collapse accelerates. No one wins. Everyone bleeds. I think we're on the second path, but I thought that 3 days ago, and then the French announced their carrier group, and the calculus shifted. This is the thing about the Strait of Hormuz crisis. It is moving faster than anyone can model. Every 24 hours produces a development that restructures the strategic picture. Here's what I want to leave you with. Iran played its one irreplaceable card, the card it spent 40 years holding, the card it promised would cost the world $200 oil, and within 13 minutes of its first warning, the U.S. had already destroyed 10 mine-laying ships. Within 72 hours, an entire class of Iranian warships was gone. Iran's missile capacity is down 90%, its drones 95%, its navy functionally broken. And yet, as of March 15th, only 3 ships were openly transiting the Strait of Hormuz. Iran is losing the military war, and it is still, partially, winning the economic war. That asymmetry is the story. That's what you need to hold in your mind. When the dust settles on this, whenever that is, what will the world look like? Who adapts and who gets left behind? And the most uncomfortable question, if Iran's real weapon was never missiles, never mines, never drones, if its real weapon was always the fear of what happens to 20% of the world's oil supply, then what does it mean that the world spent 40 years knowing this threat existed and built exactly 0 serious alternatives to this single choke point? Leave your answers in the comments. Every one of them gets read here at Daily Brief. And if this analysis added something to how you see this crisis, hit like. It takes 2 seconds and it helps more people find the kind of analysis that actually explains what's happening, not just what exploded. We'll be back with the next update as soon as the situation develops. Don't miss it.